your eyes. And just listen to the sounds. Imagine the earth spinning through space, circling the sun and vibrating with life, moving in rhythm to the song of the cosmos, the primordial pulse, Om. The earth throbs in sync with the cosmos as our hearts beat in sync with the earth. Imagine, as we sit here in this space, in this sanctuary, in this time during the autumn equinox, our hearts reflect the percussive symphony of all life on earth. The never-ending caress of the ocean, wave upon wave upon wave to the shore. The soft syncopation of rain falling through canopied forests, moistening the dry earth. The staccato cry of the osprey soaring overhead. The vibrato echo of the whale singing through the depths. Yes, right here, right now, in this very moment, the sacred song of the cosmos pulses in our veins and reverberates through our hearts. Allow yourself to rest, to relax, to remember the rhythms of the earth. Welcome the sounds of life and the gifts of vitality, health, peace, and love that they bestow. Back, to bring your attention back to the room, to the weight of your feet on the floor, the pressure of your back against the pew. Welcome back. It is my hope that we will all fall in love, ever so much more deeply, profoundly, irrevocably in love with this, our beautiful planet Earth. There are several things that I intend to weave together this morning to see if we can't accomplish that. Some Jungian approaches to ecopsychology, my interest in our collective psycho-spiritual well-being, the environmental health of our planet, and finally, some ideas I have had while learning about sound therapy. Sacred sound is a very much a new endeavor for me, but we are fortunate to have Ellen and Amanda with us, who have much more experience. I hope that you all enjoyed the sound bath. You may also have noticed that my husband, Mark, has been playing the grandmother drum throughout the morning. He's maintaining a heartbeat. This was such a powerful part of my first weekend training in sound therapy at Swaha Academy that I wanted to share it with you. I began studying ecopsychology and sound therapy in order to help me feel a greater sense of hope. There are so many vital causes, so many things that clamor for our attention. It's challenging to know where to put our effort, where we individually and collectively can do the most good. Sometimes it can feel as if we are all fighting against each other for the scraps that fall from the table. When nonprofits have to compete for limited funding, or when marginalized groups and causes struggle to establish credibility while not diminishing the importance of others. It can be overwhelming, frustrating, and confusing. We saw this with Black Lives Matter, which almost immediately was followed by no, Blue Lives Matter, and then no, all lives matter. When we lift up and acknowledge the pain emanating from one part of our interconnected web, it does not mean that we are dismissing pain in other areas, but it can feel that way, especially when we are rooted in scarcity thinking, when we are rooted in paradigms of individualism, exponential growth, consumption, and limited resource allocation. And make no mistake, we all find ourselves there as we are all socialized to see the world in these ways. This is where radical ecopsychology comes in, as promoted by Andy Fisher. Andy combines ecopsychology with critical social theory to craft a fuller understanding of the relationship between nature, society, and psyche. He suggests that the many causes that call for our attention, misogyny, racism, homophobia, classism, xenophobia, war, complex trauma, whatever I have forgotten, I'm sure you can fill in. Andy suggests that these are not disparate competitive issues, but rather symptoms of a collective problem, a problem that is rooted in the legacies of colonialism, imperialism, and unchecked capitalism. It is a radical vision, one that asks us to change the very foundations of our thinking, to acknowledge that these systems of oppression are expressions of and dependent upon systems of objectification, not just objectification of people, but of the earth as well. We can look to places like Flint, Michigan, to see the intersection of environmental degradation and racism. We can hear it in the stories our children tell from around the world when they speak of climate change and how it personally impacts them. That was such a powerful video this morning. No matter your views on global warming, I believe we all can agree that it is our connection to the earth that sustains us, and that we are all too often disconnected from this source. Andy Fisher reminds us, everything can feel so dire and urgent, it can seem like a luxury to think about an intimate relationship with the natural world. But it isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. When we integrate psyche, nature, and society, we deepen into other possible worlds, and we need a different world. Andy is a professor at Pacifica Graduate Institute, where I study Jungian psychology, and the motto for Pacifica is Anima Mundi Calende Gratia, for the sake of tending soul in the world. But it can also be translated as for the sake of tending to the soul of the world. And these are very different endeavors. When we tend soul in the world, we care for psyche of individual humans through activities like spiritual direction and psychotherapy. But when we tend to the soul of the world, we move from the individual to the collective, from the simply human to the extraordinarily more than human, to an ensouled world which certainly includes us as humans, but also includes so much more. In many ways, it is a stance of mysticism. One of my favorite medieval mystics, Mechthild of Magdeburg, writes, "The day of my spiritual awakening was the day I saw and knew that I saw all things in God and God in all things." Theologically, this is considered panentheism, not pantheism, in which nature is sacred, or polytheism, where there are many individual gods, or monotheism, where there is but one distinct God. Panentheism is where the divine is immersed and resonates through all beings, all things, where nature, the earth, and the cosmos are seen as inherently sacred and connected. What do the cry of the osprey, the call of the whale, and the human heartbeat have in common? From this perspective, they are understood to be sacred, but more than that, they are part of a wholly living system that is intelligent, resonant, magnetic, and pulses with life. Imagine the honeybee. Humans have tended beehives for centuries. In some ways, these pollinators are very familiar to us. And yet we are still learning so many incredible things about them. Did you know that when they fly, the friction of the air against their bodies with all their tiny hairs and rapidly moving wings causes them to lose electrons, and this creates a positive electric charge? And flowers, which are rooted in the earth, have a negative charge, which increases in strength from the roots to the flower. When a bee lands on a flower, these electrical charges activate a release of pollen. Honeybees don't laboriously collect grains of pollen one by one like tiny farmers filling baskets with produce, an image I had from childhood. No. When they approach the flower, the negatively charged pollen flies through the air and attaches to their bodies. Imagine if you could walk through your garden and green beans leapt into your pockets. You wouldn't even need a basket. That's how incredible honeybees are. And beyond that, there are some plants like tomatoes that store most of their pollen inside a cone with a tiny opening at the top. This conserves and protects the pollen. When bumblebees land on that cone, they quiet their wings, but continue to amplify the vibration so that their bodies vibrate and move the flower. This creates standing waves of resonance in the pollen cone. It excites the particles of pollen, which gain energy in the closed chamber until the vibration is so strong that the pollen bursts through the top of the cone and lights onto the body of the bumblebee. And we are witness to these amazing moments through sound. The hum of the bumblebee increases in amplitude and also changes pitch when it lights on a flower. It actually reaches 256 hertz, a resonant middle C. How could we not love that? This is the song the bees sing while they work. And if we've ever sat quietly in a garden on a summer afternoon, we have witnessed this miracle. As humans, we are no less miraculous. The beating of our hearts create electromagnetic fields which can increase in amplitude and influence others. The neurons in our brains communicate through electromagnetic pulses. And there are specific neurons in our brains that are able to sync up in rhythm to the pulses in other people. It's an important way that children learn. It's also a way in which we transfer feelings of anxiety and alarm or safety and calm to others. Neuropsychologist Daniel Siegel has done some remarkable work focused on mirror neurons. He teaches parents how to calm their brains in order to increase their children's emotional regulation. Isn't that incredible? In many ways, we are individuals, but also one communal electromagnetic field. When we sit together, when we listen to music, especially when we speak in unison or sing, we resonate, and we resonate together in a rhythm with the earth. Some of you may have heard of the Schumann resonance. In 1952, physicist Winifred Otto Schumann mathematically predicted the rhythmic pulse of the earth. Since that hypothesis, others have developed the technology to actually measure it. In its simplest terms, the atmosphere surrounding the Earth occurs in layers. The outermost layer, the ionosphere, which ranges from 50,000 to 100,000 kilometers above the Earth's surface, is full of highly charged particles. And just beyond the ionosphere is the magnetosphere, which you might think of as a magnetic crust. It protects the Earth from the sun's highly charged particle radiation and solar winds. As the magnetosphere resists the impact of these solar winds, it puts pressure on the ionosphere, influencing weather throughout the globe and creating lightning storms. Some of these solar particles actually slip through and travel down to the Earth's magnetic poles, creating the aurora borealis and the aurora australis. There are upward of 100 lightning charges per second throughout the Earth's atmosphere. Highly charged photons traveling both down toward the Earth and upward to the outer layers of the ionosphere refract and bounce. Eventually, they dissipate unless they are one of 8 specific frequencies which have the potential to create persistent electromagnetic waves. The foundational Schumann resonance pulses at 7.8 hertz, the same number of times a light wave circles the Earth in a second. The other 7 Schumann waves are also in sync with the circumference of the Earth. These waves have been stable for hundreds of millions of years. All life on Earth has evolved within these sustained frequencies. The perpetually reverberating heartbeat of the Earth. And if that's not amazing enough, our brain waves operate in the same 0 to 40 hertz frequencies. We are beginning to understand now how these frequencies can influence emotional states, concentration, memory, and even our sense of connectedness to each other. For some, like Stephen Burns, he suggests that the Schumann resonance and the fields it creates, particularly the ways in which we can entrain to it, help explain Carl Jung's theory of the collective unconscious. What we know for sure is that the foundational Schumann resonance of 7.8 Hertz falls exactly between theta and alpha brainwave states, where we move from relaxed awareness to deep meditation. Studies have found that increasing theta brainwave activity can reduce both anxiety and depression. Sound therapists create binaural beats to mirror the Schumann resonance. They place singing bowls, like this one, with slightly different pitches by each ear. As we hear the different frequencies of the bowls, our brains entrain not to the bowls, but to the difference between them. And this is a much lower frequency, one that resonates with the Earth's Schumann frequencies. We can drop into these lower frequencies by also sitting near the ocean and listening to the rhythm of the waves, or walking through forests and allowing our breathing to keep time with our footfalls, or even by sitting, as we have done today, and welcoming the steady beat of the drum. It is my hope that you have felt the blessing of the Earth's resonance today, and that you will carry it with you throughout the week, that it will strengthen your courage and inspire your creativity, that it will help you fall in love with this amazing planet Earth, and that this love will give us the courage for the challenging work ahead of creating new human structures that honor our beautiful planet. After all, wouldn't we all do almost anything for love?